Hello, YouTube fam. Get ready for an amazing video experience. Welcome, everyone, to our latest video where we'll be exploring Shoshenq IV. Hedjkheperre Setepenre Shoshenq IV was an ancient Egyptian ruler of the 22nd dynasty, between the reigns of Shoshenq III and Pami. In 1986, David Rohl proposed that there were two King Shoshenqs bearing the prenomen Hedjkheperre I, the well-known founder of the dynasty, Hedjkheperre Shoshenq I, and I, a later pharaoh from the second half of the dynasty, whom Rohl called Hedjkheperre Shoshenq I due to his exact position in the dynasty being unknown. Following Rohl's proposal first suggested to him by Pieter Gert van der Veen in 1984, the British Egyptologist Aidan Dodson supported the new king's existence by demonstrating that the earlier Hedjkheperre Shoshenq bore simple epithets in his titulary, whereas the later Hedjkheperre Shoshenq's epithets were more complex. Dodson suggested that the ruler that Kenneth Kitchen, in his standard work on Third Intermediate Period Chronology, had numbered Shoshenq IV bearing the prenomen Usermaatre should be removed from the 22nd dynasty and replaced by Rohl's Hedjkheperre Shoshenq I, renumbering the latter as Shoshenq IV. At the same time, the old Usermaatre Shoshenq IV was renumbered as Shoshenq VI. Dodson's historical summary of the new King Shoshenq IV's discovery and his supportive evidence for that king's independent existence from Hedjkheperre Shoshenq I appeared in an article entitled "A New King Shoshenq Confirmed" in 1993. Rohl and Dodson's combined arguments for the existence of a new 22nd dynasty Tanite king called Hedjkheperre Shoshenq IV are accepted by Egyptologists today, including Jürgen von Beckerhoff and Kitchen, the latter in the preface to the third edition of his book on the Third Intermediate Period in Egypt. As Dodson pointed out, while Shoshenq IV shared the same prenomen as his illustrious ancestor Shoshenq I, he is distinguished from Shoshenq I by his use of an especially long nomen Shoshenq Merriman Sebost Neturichan, which featured both the Sebost son of Bast and Neturichan god ruler of Heliopolis epithets. These two epithets were only gradually employed by the 22nd dynasty pharaohs, starting from the reign of Shoshenq II. By contrast, Shoshenq I's nomen simply reads Shoshenq Merriman. Shoshenq I's immediate successors, Shoshenq I and Titulary I, also never used epithets beyond the standard Merriman, beloved of Amun. In his 1994 book on the canopic equipment of the kings of Egypt, Dodson observes that when the Sebost epithet appears during the dynasty of Shoshenq II, it is rather infrequent, while the Neturikwasit god ruler of Thebes and Neturichan epithets are only exclusively attested in the reigns of that monarch's successors, that is Shoshenq III, Pami and Shoshenq V. This suggests that the newly identified Hedjkheperre Shoshenq IV was a late Tanite era king who ruled in Egypt either during or after the reign of Shoshenq III. Rohl have already pointed out in 1989 that the cartouches of a Hedjkheperre Shoshenq appear on a Stella Street, Petersburg Hermitage 5630 dated to year 10 of the king. This stela mentions a great chief of the Libu, Usermaatre, who is also attested in a year 8, usually attributed to Shoshenq V, since the title chief of the Libu is only documented from year 31 of Shoshenq I onwards. It seems this new king must have ruled contemporary with or after Shoshenq III. Dodson noted that the Hedjkheperre Shoshenq on the stela bore the long-form titulary, now attributed to Hedjkheperre Shoshenq IV, thus confirming that the stela cannot be dated to Hedjkheperre Shoshenq I. In his 1993 paper, Dodson proposed to place Shoshenq I's reign after the last attested regnal date for Shoshenq III in year 39, arguing that the discovery of Shoshenq I's burial in the tomb of Shoshenq III at Tanis makes it likely that he was part of the 22nd dynasty Tanite line. Dodson would therefore place Hedjkheperre Shoshenq IV between Shoshenq III and Pami. With the foundation laid, let's embark on a journey into burial. Excavation work in the looted NRTV Tanite tomb of Shoshenq III revealed the presence of two sarcophagi, one inscribed for Usermaatre Setepenre Shoshenq III and the other being an anonymous sarcophagus. The unmarked sarcophagus, however, was clearly a secondary introduction according to its position in the tomb. In the Tanite tomb's debris, several fragments were found from one or two canopic jars bearing the cartouches of a Hedjkheperre Shoshenq. Rohl had pointed out that the Stotlich Museum in Berlin possessed a canopic chest for Hedjkheperre Shoshenq I, and that these jars from the tomb of Shoshenq I were too large to fit inside the Berlin canopic chest. Rohl used the evidence of the jars as the key element of his theory that there were indeed two Hedjkheperre Shoshenqs. Dodson noted that the Tanit canopic vessels bear the name Hedjkheperre Setepenre Shoshenq, and, since the epithet Neturican god ruler of Heliopolis was never employed by the 22nd Dynasty kings until the reign of Shoshenq III, this is clear evidence that the new Shoshenq IV was buried in Shoshenq I's Tanit tomb and must have succeeded this king. It also establishes that the king buried in the second sarcophagus in Shoshenq I's tomb was certainly not Shoshenq I. Dodson was initially reluctant to accept Rohl's proposal for a second Hedjkheperre Shoshenq, but his own research into the archaeological evidence led him to revise his opinion. This is now the mainstream consensus view within Egyptology. Remember, knowledge is power. Keep learning, growing, and exploring.